Good afternoon, and welcome to Intangify, the podcast where we talk about the intangible aspects and assets of business. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. I'm an intellectual property attorney. So in my day, I deal with intangible assets all day, but really in different walks and different ways than a lot of businesses do. So my guests on this show, also deal with intangible as I can't speak this afternoon. My guests deal with intangibles in different ways than I do. Um, I'm very pleased to be joined this afternoon by Lisa Larder. Welcome, Lisa.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Sure. And Lisa she runs a consulting business and does some marketing and strategy and implementation of that. So she's got a lot going. So you'll learn about many of the things she does. But we'll tie it all back in. So with that, Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about your roots, what brought you into what you do today?
Oh, sure. Um, what brought me into what I do today is really a shoulder tap. I was at a networking event and I was on the board for this women's group. And at the time, I owned a retail store, like an AT&T store in Canada called TELUS. And I was really passionate about business and business growth and marketing. And I was talking all the time about things that people could be doing to market their businesses to attract more customers. And a woman tapped me on the shoulder and she kind of whispered to me one day, if you would hold a workshop or something and teach us how to do what you know how to do, we would all pay to go because we don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, really? Doesn't everybody know this stuff? I just assumed that what I knew was common and that other people were doing the same thing. But it turns out they didn't know what I knew about developing strategies for business growth. They didn't understand what levers to press for marketing in order to attract the right buyers, and they were spinning their wheels. And so that was really the shoulder tap started everything. I went to another luncheon that afternoon and I said, I'm looking for people who want to go attend a workshop on how to use, social media for your business. And half the people in the room gave me money that day. And that started this business off. And, it's evolved into a firm that does strategy work, advisory work. And I have an entire team that does all of the digital marketing implementation. So you name it, website design, podcast production, book marketing, social marketing, content marketing, you name it, we do it.
Well, that's a lot. And I know, as someone who has to market themselves and also as someone who deals with businesses that market themselves all the time, it can be really very nebulous. I mean, even if we understand conceptually what we're supposed to do to reach audiences, the actual implementation feels really hard to grasp, hard to know what to do from day to day. And
Mm-hmm.
you help with that aspect as well.
Yeah, we help people create content marketing roadmaps. So we'll help them to really consider what should their marketing look like. And I think what happens, especially if you are marketing yourself, you can very easily get tripped up on what is valuable and what isn't valuable. So let's look at my example. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, we don't know how to do this. We would pay you if you taught us how. And I thought everybody knew how to do what I did. I thought what I did was not really that impressive. And it turns out that there's a need for my expertise, but I didn't see it. And so a lot of times when I work with, people who are solopreneurs or they're consultants or they're having to market themselves, they don't know how to market themselves because they don't see themselves as being that special. David Baker wrote in one of his books, I think it was The Secret of Expertise. You can't read the ingredients on the outside of the jar when you're inside the jar. And that's why marketing is hard for people because they don't see what other people see. I help them to see that.
I love that. You're also somewhat of a master of imagery. I mean, even if that one didn't come from you, but you've got the tap on the shoulder. You can't see the outside, the ingredients from the inside. I'm getting all sorts of fun images, so I appreciate it. So you said you were in Canada. You were a retailer in Canada, and someone tapped you on the shoulder. I assume that was there. So did you launch your business there?
Yes, I started my business in Canada, and I remember going to the same networking event a couple of months later and saying that I was going to have an international business. And I felt so bold to say that I wanted to be, global and not local. And within 30 days, I had my first client in the United States. And I think less than 30 days after that, I had a client in South Africa. And so it really did evolve into being outside of Canada very quickly. And then almost 2 years ago, when we decided that we wanted to spend more time in the United States, we opened a subsidiary company in the United States. So we actually have an official US company now as well.
And you're based here as well, if I understood correctly, right?
Yeah, we're here on L1A visas right now.
So you kind of have the roots in Canada. You moved US. Your clients are global.
Mhm.
So who are the typical clients? How do they find you?
Well, they find me through my marketing, of course. Yeah, I'm being smart there. Some do find me through my marketing, of course, but I also have a very strong referral network. A lot of clients that do business with us really like the results that they get from that business, and so they refer other people to us. I would say the vast majority of our clients are experts. So they're either consultants or they own consulting firms. And then we also have some specialization in healthcare and technology. Because I come from a technology background, prior to owning my own retail store in the wireless industry, I worked for the telco for 9 years. And so I'm pretty tech savvy in comparison to a lot of people my age because I grew up in a tech industry. And so it's easy for me to take that knowledge from working for the telco and help other tech companies market more effectively.
But then why healthcare?
Healthcare, it's really interesting. I landed in healthcare by accident. A client was referred to me, and she owned a healthcare consulting firm. And it was really, really confusing for me because healthcare in the United States is very different from healthcare in Canada. But I learned quickly, and I really learned a lot about her business and developed a good base of subject matter expertise around what healthcare really, how health, basically the business of healthcare in the United States, and how to help people who are trying to sell to executives in healthcare be successful at doing that.
So do you do healthcare and sort of technological type of clients at the exclusion of others? Or how narrow or broad is the scope of your clientele?
It's pretty broad. I don't, I mean, I wouldn't, at one point, I had a consultant who was a sales expert. And if I had other sales consultants who wanted to work with me, I would run it by that person just to make sure it wasn't a conflict of interest. But I've never really run into any situations yet where it is a conflict. In the healthcare space, the client that I had was really, they really specialized in helping hospitals and healthcare systems remove unnecessary costs. And I would never have worked with a competing organization that did the same thing as them because they were a really great client of mine. Another company that I'm working with in healthcare, they provide a lot of the equipment that hospitals need to rent, and they help them refurbish their equipment. They help them sell their equipment. They do things related to equipment. You go into a hospital and you just assume they own everything. They don't own everything. There's a lot of equipment in hospitals that are rented, and there are companies out there that specialize in that. And so it's healthcare it's so interesting in the United States because once you understand the business of healthcare and how it works, you can find all these different ways to help people with their messaging, their positioning, and their marketing, and even their content marketing so that they can create materials that are valuable to their buyers so that they can expand their business. It's no different than any other industry. These people start out with an area of expertise. And just because you have an area of expertise doesn't mean you know how to market that area of expertise. And so I come along and I see ways that people can market their expertise to generate leads. And fortunately, a lot of the ideas that I have work. And so that keeps us really busy for two reasons. One, we retain a lot of our clients for a very long time. And two, a lot of our clients refer other business to us. So we don't have an inbound lead problem because we get people that are reaching out to do business with us on a regular basis, which is, to me, it all works together. You need to have good marketing because when somebody says, oh, check out this person, they can help you, people creep you. They want to know about you. They want to go look and see, do you look credible? Do you look like someone they can trust? And if you do good work, they'll stay with you for a long time. And then they'll tell other people who check you out. And it just keeps going round and round. It's like a flywheel that just keeps on going.
How's that work in the context of some of the kind of thought leadership things you do? I know that you have some books,
Mhm.
you have a podcast. Are those sort of that same sort of verification aspect? Like, hey, check out my book, and then you will feel you'll recognize, what it's like, what I'm like to work with, and it will verify that that I'm someone who knows what they're doing in this field. Is that the idea?
Uh, Not really. I would say it's the opposite. People read my book and then they reach out to me and say, I read your book. I really think you can help me. Usually, when people reach out to me, they already know they want to work with me because they've done their due diligence. They've either read my LinkedIn recommendations, they've gone to my website, they've followed me on a couple of social channels, they've read some blogs, maybe they've listened to the podcast, maybe they have read the book. But it's rare that when they reach out to me, that I have to recommend that they read the book. Most of them have already done that. So sometimes it's another person that gets them into kind of the cycle. And sometimes it's they just happen to pick up the book and that gets them into the cycle.
Okay, so it's like something that gets them on into the cycle or on the radar essentially, and then they become familiar with all the other different kinds of things you are doing, and when they have a need, of course, then they hopefully will reach out, and it seems like they do something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, exactly. All these pieces combined help to elevate your platform. I used a metaphor years ago when I was speaking, which is think of every single piece of content that you publish, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a video, a blog, a social media post, a newsletter, a book, as a piece of paper. The more pieces of paper you stack, the higher your visibility gets. But when you don't have very much in your stack, it makes it hard for people to see you. The bigger your stack is, the more elevated you are, and the easier it is for people to find you.
I love how you're the queen of imagery. It's clear. The third one, I'm going to make my notes of each image, and then I have to like put the graphics in after the fact for editing this. No, that's great. I'm one of those people who tries to do a lot of different things, but and I think that I've had some success, in terms of someone who gets out there and people find me, in the sense of your stacks of paper. But I also find that the more things that I try to do, kind of the more distracted I am, or the less complete any of the things that I can do are. And
Mhm.
somebody told me the other day that you could maybe do three different things really, really well, but like four, you're just like off the ledge, like, and you're doing all these things, right? You do the podcast, you've got the books, you're talking to clients, and so how do you manage kind of the multiple hats you really have to wear to stack the papers as high as you'd like to?
Well, first and foremost, I would tell people that they should consider what content marketing formats they enjoy the most. Because if you hate writing and it's going to be painful for you to write, you're probably not going to write as often as you need to. So, first thing is pick the format that you enjoy. Secondly, try to see what your clients actually enjoy. There's a lot of data out there associated with everything we do where we can see how many likes, how much engagement, how many views, et cetera, that people get from what they put out into the world. And so if you think about the Pareto principle, 20% of your marketing is probably driving 80% of your outcomes. The question is, do you know what that 20% is?
I think that's a great question. We're going to pick back up on that after our break. We'll be right back. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Bronku, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to Intangify. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. My guest is Lisa Larder. Lisa runs Lisa Larder Consulting out of Canada, and GoDaxi is her company subsidiary in the United States, where she's based full time. And she handles clients from all over the world, helping them strategy regarding their content marketing as well as implementation. So Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you.
Sure. We were talking before the break, and one of the things you mentioned was data. There's all this data out there that you can utilize. And again, sort of, I mentioned earlier, someone like me, I know about all these things I should do, but it's nebulous and overwhelming. When you start talking about data, it's nebulous and overwhelming. Like, what data do you mean, and how do we use it? How do we even understand what it means?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to decide what are the key performance indicators that matter to you in your business. And so, in my experience, the things that are most important to most people are website traffic, inbound leads, and list size. And the reason that all three of those drivers matter is because website traffic leads to a list building and it leads to inbound leads. Most people today, I think it's like something like 85 or 90% of buying decisions are made before someone even reaches out to you. And that's because they've gone to your website to check you out. So if you start through the lens of those are the three things that matter the most, because you want people to come to your website, you want people on your mailing list so you can communicate with them directly, and you want to generate inbound leads, then what are the other things that make that happen? And so if you are posting content on social media, how much of that referral traffic that you're getting is coming from what channel? When you look at your website traffic, is the traffic coming from LinkedIn? Is it coming from organic search? Is it coming from SEO? You need to know where the traffic is coming from. Same thing with list building. People want to build their mailing list, but a lot of times they're not doing anything to help them build their mailing list. They don't have a free download. They don't have free webinars. They don't offer free courses. They're not doing anything that actually gets people into their list so that they can communicate directly with them. And then when it comes to inbound leads, are you making it easy for people to reach out to you, to talk to you about how to do business? Where are the leads coming from? Because inbound leads don't always come through your website. I get inbound leads through social media on a regular basis. Somebody will reach out to me on LinkedIn, they'll send me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and they have a question about business. So you have to be conscious of these social outposts and how you're managing them in correlation to whatever your key performance indicators are. And if inbound leads are one of those things, then it's really important that you're checking all of those channels at least once a day to make sure there isn't somebody sitting there waiting. While we were on the break, somebody called my phone. Well, if there's a voicemail on my phone, when I'm done the show, I'm going to listen to what the voicemail is, because that might be a client, right? So if we treated our social media channels, our social media inbox with the same level of importance that we treat voicemail and email, it's amazing what people could probably do in their business.
So this may be an unfair characterization. You've heard, you hear people say that that women are good at parallel processing and multitasking, and that men are, sort of one track. And I'm definitely the model of that in terms of, I don't think that's true for everybody, but I think, at least for myself, I'm definitely the person who is one track. So when you tell me that I need to be worrying about my inbox, my email inbox, my social media notifications and inboxes and messaging, my telephone, voicemail, my postal mail, to the extent that still matters, my fax, I'm sure that stuff doesn't matter much anymore. But the more you tell me that there are these things that need to be monitored, the more I am just like, there's no way I could possibly keep track. It's overwhelming. Is that because I have this sort of what is said to be a male quality of I can only focus on one thing at a time, or do I just need better management tools?
You need better management tools, because I know lots of women that are not able to manage multiple things too. So I don't think I think men think in terms of to the point, and women think more spatially. They think about, multiple options, but I think that each can be equally distracted and overwhelmed. If you have that much activity coming at you, then you should be able to hire somebody to help you. And I mean, that's what our team does, right? We help people kind of manage through all of these different inbound notifications to prioritize. You could post a picture of your coffee and say that you went to Starbucks this morning and you got a pumpkin spice latte. Who's had one this year? And you're going to get people commenting about how much they love them and people commenting about how much they hate them. Who cares about the engagement on the latte post? That's not helping you generate business. It's helping you generate likability. It's helping you generate visibility, which helps you get preferential treatment in the algorithm, because now the algorithm sees you as someone who's posting content that people engage with. But if it's not one of the key priorities for you in terms of website traffic, list building, and lead gen, then that doesn't matter as much. So when you know what the priorities are, you can hire people to help you manage those priorities. But I think that we have so much data available to us, it can be overwhelming. But if you have somebody who can provide you with monthly reporting, even if they're reporting, one or two things from every channel so that you have an understanding of what's working and what's not working, then it helps you to do more of the right things.
That makes a lot of sense. The part that I still struggle with is maybe sort of the simultaneity of looking bottom up and top down, meaning that, hey, I need to worry about this post and this thing I'm going to do, and then see what kind of engagement I get. What should I say? What should I, like the ground up, bottom up building, and then no, I have this. It's part of this overarching plan of these 30 different things that I'm doing, and I'm trying to get a picture of which are the ones that work. Your 80% versus 20%. So you can get lost in the weeds of being too focused on this one post. And then you could also be sort of looking at the grand overview and kind of missing the point of what is my goal, or what is my strategy, or how do I accomplish that? What would you say to someone like me?
Well, I would say don't get so caught up in the post detail. Get caught up in the outcomes. Are you getting the results that you want? Are you getting the website traffic? Are you building your list? Are you getting the inbound leads? And when you have conversations with people, what are they saying to you? So I spoke at an event last week. I was the opening keynote, and I had people come up to me and talk to me about my thought readers program. Strangers. Oh, I'm so glad you're doing thought readers. I'm following along in your book club. I love your book club. Somebody else. Oh, I love your podcast. I listen to every episode. So sometimes you get qualitative feedback from people that helps you to decide what things you should keep doing and what things you should stop doing. But I think that as a business person, you only have time is a resource that you can't get more of. So you have to be really discerning about where you spend your time. And it's not easy to be that way, especially when you live in a world where, every other day somebody's asking you to be on their podcast. They're asking you to share their link on your website. They're asking you to collaborate on Instagram. Like, you have requests coming at you left, right, and center. You have to be able to say no to certain things, and you have to be able to know which opportunities are going to work best for you and which aren't. But I wouldn't get caught up in the micro detail of analyzing every single post on a post by post level. You can do that. The data is there. But what I would say is, if I look at my Instagram, I get a heck of a lot more views, interactions, and comments on the videos that I post, the reels, than I do on swipeable images or just a static image. So I know as a generalization that those things perform better for me. So I do more of that. I think you have to be able to kind of look at it as a whole and say, what content that I put out there seems to resonate with people. But, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You don't know unless you try things. So just because reels are working well for me today doesn't mean that they're going to work well for me in 3 months, because there might be some new thing that the algorithm is favoring. So that's a whole other piece. You have to pay attention to what is the algorithm favoring right now. So I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. Everybody loves LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place for business owners. It's a terrible place to share links. So if all you're doing is sharing links to your podcast and links to your blog and links to your website, chances are you're getting zero traction, because the LinkedIn algorithm, here's a simple thing you can do. Go to your own LinkedIn home feed and scroll down through 20 posts on your home feed and mark down what they are. How many of them are images? How many are videos? How many are link posts? How many are sponsored ads? How many are videos? Like, how many are swipeable content? Like, pay attention to what's in your feed, and you'll notice that, guess what? They're only showing one link post out of 10. So 90% of the time, links are not being shown in the newsfeed. So why post? Well, if your content is 90% link-based, you're starting out behind the 8 ball.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, we hear about how we should utilize a particular platform. Video is the best content to put here, or whatever. LinkedIn wants native content, right? That sort of thing. But in practice, I mean, at least for me, and I probably should hire you, but within my world, when I'm going to post something, I never am just sort of posting something that is independently one or the other. I'm posting a video with a link, or I'm posting I don't know, a photo with the poll or something else like that. So it's hard to actually sort out that content and kind of arrive at, well, okay, I know I don't want to just put links. Okay, fine. But can I do a link that's with a video that's native on LinkedIn? Will that change it? Or is that also going to be demoted because it's...
Yeah, if you're putting links out there, you're going to deprioritize. Where you want to put links is in a LinkedIn newsletter. LinkedIn newsletters are the only thing on LinkedIn that are driving traffic to websites right now, from what we've seen. The other thing you want to do is create a content plan. So if you're throwing stuff up all the time without really being thoughtful about what you're doing, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it's going to stick. Whereas when you think through and say, okay, I'm going to do a poll once a week, I'm going to do a video once a week, I'm going to share my podcast once a week, and you actually start to think about the content and plan some of this stuff in advance, it's not quite as hard. And it's actually, in a lot of cases, it's more thoughtful, it's more valuable, it's more useful to other people, because you're not just trying to get the task of putting something on LinkedIn done.
Yeah, that's that function of bottom up versus top down I was mentioning earlier. So focused on, I've got to do this thing, that you can't put it in the context of the overall plan.
Exactly.
So we got to go to break. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc, and we'll be right back.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the Nonprofit Sector Connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Intangify. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. My guest is Lisa Larder. We're talking about marketing and content strategy. And Lisa, we were talking before the break about, like, as an example, using social media, this idea that you might recognize the type of content that is preferred on a particular platform. You might and you might then, place the higher priority content on that type of platform. So you were using the example of LinkedIn. So let's say I've got a video, and I want to make that video. I want people to see that video, and I decide to upload it onto LinkedIn. To be keeping that example, is that it? Should I be done? What do I? Let's see how much engagement I get, and then I'll be done. Or should I just keep repeating the same video over and over and over again? What do you tell people?
Well, I think there's a lot to be said for repurposing content. And so I'm going to give you a metaphor that I use with a lot of my clients, and the timing is good because this is going to air right before Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving, you're going to have turkey, you're going to have dressing, you're going to have mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, veggies, gravy, you name it, all the fixings. Can you imagine cooking that turkey dinner and making one plate for yourself and then throwing away all the leftovers? You'd never do it.
Isn't it?
You would miss out on, turkey stew, hot turkey sandwiches, cold turkey sandwiches, turkey quesadillas, you name it, turkey salad. Like, think of all the stuff you can make after you have that meal. If you think about your content as the main meal, then think about the leftovers that you can create with the content. So let's use your video as an example. You upload a video, you got this video. You have a native video, it's a direct upload to LinkedIn. Well, you can now put that video on YouTube. It's another format for your content. It's another social network. You can take that video and transcribe it, and now you have written content that you can use. You can take that video and you could edit it into a bunch of slices that you could use for Reels or YouTube Shorts. You could take that content and you could create swipeable imagery. So let's say I talk about 5 ways to repurpose your content. I could literally have 5 swipes that talk about 5 ways to repurpose my content. I could take the transcript and I could do stories, and I could create small little stories based on the content from the video. So start thinking about your content from the perspective of it's not one and done. The other thing you want to remember is you put something up on LinkedIn or Facebook or on your blog, wherever, the whole world doesn't stop to view that one thing you put up there. If you are connected to, let's say, 2,500 people on LinkedIn, and you post something on LinkedIn today and you get 100 views, do you know what that says? 2,400 people that you're connected to didn't see it. So why are people so afraid to repeat what they put up there? Now, I don't think you should repeat it every single day. That would make no sense. But you can start to pre-schedule content in the future. So I'm going to tell you something I'm doing right now with my team. At the end of January, we are hosting our first all-employee team meeting since before COVID, because I have people from all over. I'm flying them all to Florida for a few days. We're renting out a mansion on the beach in Anna Maria Island, and we're going to do some really great work together. But that means that they're going to be out of the office for a few days, and it's going to be hard for them to do their work. So right now, 3 months before we get there, they're all creating best of content. And they're creating 2 additional best of posts per day. And they're scheduling them 90 days out for their clients, because they know that the best of content always performs great the second time around. In fact, it performs great the 3rd, 4th, and 5th time around. You just have to spread it out. And so if you post something on LinkedIn and you take a scan of your LinkedIn and you're like, oh, wow, that did really well. Take the post, take a variation of it, and schedule it to show up again in 60 days and see what happens then. You know, you can use the exact same format, or you can change the recipe, create some leftovers, so to speak, out of the things that perform well for you. And then you don't have to feel the pressure of having to create something brand new every single day. Instead, capitalize, create good pillar content, and then capitalize on that content by disseminating it in different ways.
So that also makes a lot of sense. I'm a bit of a foodie myself, and so we sort of stick with the food analogy for the time being, which, by the way, love the visuals. So we'll keep coming. I'm actually stacking turkeys as I'm thinking about that. But as we think about the food imagery, you know, my issue is, well, I go into the kitchen. Every time I go into the kitchen, I want to make something fresh from scratch, new.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I really enjoy. And yeah, okay, I'll eat some leftovers here and there, but I like the fresh new.
Yeah. So create one new meal a week and let somebody else use the leftovers. That's why you hire help, because you create the one new masterful meal every single week. And then they have all these different meals with all these different leftovers that they can spin into different recipes for you. It's still your content. It's still your voice. It's still authentically you. It's your expertise. They're just changing the format.
So that's a different way than the way I understood you work. So I would think that, and this is going to be helpful, right? I want to understand how to do it. I would think that, okay, you know what? I have no clue when it comes to marketing. I need someone to help me figure out what I should be doing. I need someone to tell me what things they want that I should be doing, and then do them, right? What you're painting is a different picture. This is, oh, you're someone who develops content. I can take my content and come to you, and you can then turn it into 10 different things and get them all posted for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our team does that. So most of our clients don't create new content for every day of the week. They might come to us and say, hey, I recorded these 4 videos. Can you guys turn them into something interesting for Instagram and LinkedIn? Or, hey, I wrote this blog post, you know, let me know what else you think we can do. And we can take the content and pull it apart and use it in different ways. Every client is different, though. It depends on the strategy of what they want. Not all blogs are going to translate well into a video or into an audio message or into a swipeable. So it depends on what the content is. We have to look at it and say, okay, what can I do with this? I don't know about you. I love Indian food. And so one time I tried to make, instead of butter chicken, butter turkey with my leftover turkey meat, and it was disgusting. So, you know, sometimes the recipe doesn't translate well and it doesn't work. So you need to make sure that you're putting the right things together so that it works well.
Yeah, I can see that. But it's interesting because I think when you hear about someone who does what you do, when someone like me hears about what you do, it's very easy to sort of think of it as, oh, this is going to be a very holistic experience. This person is going to, be the partner that I'm going to entrust with kind of everything, and it feels overwhelming. Or it requires a much greater amount of trust and confidence than you might have early on in a relationship.
Mhm.
Whereas if it could be that, in a very piecemeal way, this is something I wrote, I don't know what to do with it. Or I need to turn it into some other things to do with it. And I can do that in sort of and get that experience and go, okay, that worked well, and then engage in different ways as needed. Like that's different.
Yes. Yes, that's not so how we work is we have monthly programs. And so someone invests a set amount each month, and those amounts include a certain number of posts on a certain number of channels. And once we have the budget and we have the channels and we have the posts, then our team works with you to create the content. But you're right, it requires a lot of trust and relationship building. So typically up front, when we first start working with somebody, we are sending them sample content plans to show them the ideas that we have around how to use the content so that we can build trust and credibility so that you don't have to worry about micromanaging every single thing that someone on our team does. We can then get to a point where you can just send us your blog and we take it from there, and we do the work for you. We also meet with our clients on a monthly basis because we want to understand, what do they have coming up? What do they have going on in their business right now? What are the seasonality things that need to be taken into consideration? Because if you are, I'm going to use retail as an example, but if you're a retailer and we're just about to hit the Christmas season, we need to be thinking a little bit differently than we were thinking in June and July.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's the timing of the content too, and if the content
Mhm.
is about an event that you are at, it's quite different than a holiday that's coming up, or
Right.
something that's evergreen content, right? Something that people
Yeah.
can always use.
That's why most of our, like 99% of our clients do a strategic marketing roadmap with me first, because that strategic marketing roadmap then feeds into the whole strategy for their business growth and development over the next 12 to 24 months. Because when they work with me directly, I'm the one I see the ingredients because I'm not in the jar. So I'm the one kind of directing you, you have all these ingredients. You should be considering this and this and this and this. And then we get consensus together on what makes sense. And then I'm able to guide and direct our team to actually do the implementation for you.
Understand that. You should see how it is. I mean, you didn't name as one of your key clients the attorneys, but you should see how it is in the world of attorney marketing, because we're told that we're supposed to do so much stuff in
Mhm.
putting together a marketing plan and then implementing. And even when we do put together a marketing plan, and I'm one of the better ones, I'd say, like I do a lot. Though granted, I have a lot of leftover content that does not get utilized. I'm throwing out about half of my turkey carcasses apparently.
Yeah.
But but there isn't really a lot of revisiting that plan and evaluating like where we are in connection to what we said we were going to be. Like I've long since forgotten what my plan was for 2023. I've just
Right.
been doing stuff.
Right. So you need to revisit it regularly.
Yeah, and really understand how it's doing in the context of the data and analytics and in the context of goals.
Mhm.
And there's one other thing that I'll bring just before we go to a break, which I mentioned earlier, kind of that bottom up, top down, the difficulty in sort of looking at things in all these different ways at different times. There's sort of an ROI component, which is that if I ask clients that engage my firm, engage me to do work for them, how they found me, I get a piece of information. It's very rarely something like, I saw your blog, I saw your podcast, or anything like that. To your point, it's more like, so and so recommended me, and then I saw your podcasts, right?
Right.
Like,
Then they went digging, they went creeping.
right, exactly.
That's why I
Exactly.
always call your website the stranger danger zone, because strangers are going there to check you out. And so if you have website shame, you don't feel good about what's out there, then that's a problem. You want to fix it so that people who don't know you feel good about reaching out to you when they check you out.
Yeah, that makes sense too. All right, well, let's go to break, and we'll be back shortly. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. We'll break back. What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Intangify. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. My guest is Lisa Larder of Lisa Larder Consulting and Go Daxi. We are talking about marketing and content marketing, but really from multiple levels, right? The basics of, what decisions you might make, where to put something, or what you're trying to accomplish, but all putting that in the context of some overarching strategy that you should have, some sort of plan. Now, when I think about having a plan, Lisa, like I said before the break, I put together a plan. I can't even remember what my plan was last week, let alone the beginning of the year. And you said, we should revisit it from time to time, but I don't. And also, when I think about a plan, when left to my own devices, I am everywhere. My brother used to say that to me when we played hide and seek as kids. Matthew, you're everywhere. I would, no matter where he would be, I would show up. But that's good. I think that's a sign of you can market. At the same time, I am spinning my wheels a lot. So how do I boil it down into a strategy that doesn't overwhelm and that addresses whatever the main goal is? I don't even know.
Well, I want you to imagine that you just hired a contractor to build a new home for you. And they looked at the building plans once, and then they just decided to set about and do whatever felt like the right thing to do every day as they continue to build your house. Do you think you'd end up with the house you originally designed?
Definitely not.
So when you create a strategy, it's often, it's helpful to have someone help you with the strategy, because just like I don't have trademark and copyright and IP expertise like you do, I'm not going to be good at doing those things because that's not my area of expertise. So when you find somebody who has an area of expertise that maybe you don't have, that can help you to drive the strategy, you end up having something that probably has a bit more longevity, that can last longer in terms of coming back to it on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So what I encourage my clients to do is every quarter revisit the plan. every quarter, go back and look at what you said you would do and evaluate. Did you do it? Did you forget some of the stuff you said you would do? Can you push it into the next quarter? And then align your metrics. So take a look at, how has your website traffic improved? How have your podcast downloads improved? How has your list size grown? What is the size of your reach on social media? Like, go look at some of those measurements and see whether or not the marketing you're doing is actually helping you to get the results you want. Marketing is intended to make a browser a buyer. It's intended to help people know you exist. So it should be a traffic driver. It should either drive traffic to your website or traffic into your funnel or traffic into your lead system. And if you're not getting the traffic that you want and the leads that you want and the sales that you want, then you got to back up and you got to look at the marketing and say, what do I need to do differently in terms of my marketing in order to get different results?
Am I then wasting my time if I'm trying to do all that marketing without having infrastructure in place? How am I going to, like you mentioned, I need to collect email addresses and have a mailing list. If I don't have a CRM system, but I still do marketing anyway, is it just that I'm throwing more turkey on the table, or what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think it depends on whether you want to be a thought leader or not. Like, are you just trying, again, are you trying to be visible or are you trying to generate leads? There's a difference. If you just want to be visible, then you can throw stuff out there all the time to just stay visible. But if you are trying to demonstrate thought leadership and you're trying to build a platform and you want to have a mailing list so that you can communicate directly with people, then you need to have something that allows you to build a mailing list. You don't need a complicated CRM, MailChimp, Constant Contact. They're like simple things that you can use. But I remember one day, when was it? I forget when it was, but Facebook went down. And all of a sudden, all these marketers who were used to marketing on Facebook and advertising on Facebook were all complaining because they were losing money because Facebook was down. Well, that's their fault. They put their customer and their business 100% on Facebook, which means whatever Facebook does impacts their business. They have no control. So if you don't have your own website and you don't have your own mailing list, you don't really have control over the communication with your buyer. When I said maybe 100 people see that post on LinkedIn out of 2,500 contacts, that's probably generous for some people. Some people, there's probably like 20 people who see out of 2,500. And so if you want to have a direct one-to-one conversation with somebody, you need to do the things that help you to own your audience, to help you not to own the audience, but to own the communication directly with them.
So what do you tell somebody, and maybe this is not the typical situation for you, but what do you tell somebody who, works in a bigger company and they're marketing themselves? I'm in a firm. My firm controls the website. I don't see the website metrics. I don't know how many people can go to my website. Should I have my own personal website?
I would. If it was me, I would. I mean, you have a podcast, you have this show, Intangify. If you write about material, if you write about your area of expertise, why can't you have your own website? Why can't you have matthewasbell.com? And why can't you just have about you? And I work for this firm and this is my area of expertise. And if you're interested in doing business with me, click here and it takes them over to the website. But why couldn't you have a blog there? Why couldn't you have your podcast there? Why couldn't you have free resources that you offered for people there? It's not a side hustle. You're not competing. It's just a platform for you to build your expertise. So let me put it to you a different way. If you were to publish a book in the next 12 months, would you not have a website for your book? Because you own your book, not your firm. You own your own thought leadership, not your firm. You may get paid by them. You may have non-compete, non-solicitation agreements that make it so that you have to do business within a certain parameter, but that doesn't mean that you can't be you in putting what you do out into the world.
Yeah, I mean, the IP attorney in me definitely would take issue with a categorical statement of you own what content you do, you create, even your thought leadership. But I think in most instances, that is the situation, right? We would ensure that we may own that content.
Right.
But as someone who has done a book, I didn't have my own website for that book. And maybe in hindsight, that's a mistake. But the idea, right? We have tools within our firm that are to help us market ourselves as part of the firm. The idea that we should be self-marketing, and there should be a whole plan there. Like, I love the idea. I'm already overwhelmed just thinking about how I'm going to do it in my firm.
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you want to be in the world and how you want to show up. And the level of effort and commitment you put into marketing yourself, I feel like it's an investment in your future. You may work with this firm for the next 30 years. You may work with them for the next 3 months. Like, nothing in life is guaranteed. But the one thing that is for sure is you will always be you.
That's the truth. Do you have any final message you'd like to leave our audience with? So we're just running out of time now.
I would just say, if you don't have a strategy, get one. Don't drive blindfolded. Know what destination you're headed in and have the right plan to get there.
I think that's great advice, and I will certainly be taking you up on that. So thank you so much. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. My guest has been Lisa Larder. Tune in on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.